listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here today. This is our 400th show since August last year, with no experience, no training, no expertise. I am proud to say, with your support and the support of our co-hosts, our guests, and our presenters, that we have grown and are right now streaming our 400th show. Welcome, wherever you are joining us in the world. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. And you are watching the Underdog Show. Ben Shai, the star of our show, has the day off, but we will still bring you a brilliant show with an incredible guest. Let's bring her on. She is joining us from London. Her name is Gi Dhanoa. Hi, Gi, welcome.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. How are you this afternoon?
I am excited to have this opportunity to meet you and share this experience of the 400th broadcast with you, as history is being made today for me. So thank you.
I feel honored as well. Thank you very much for having me.
Gi, you are incredibly successful. You launched into being a full-time entrepreneur in 2020. You're also an author, and you and your sister are also real estate investors, which is extremely interesting. And I want to delve into all of that. Before we do, we want to just recognize the fact this is the Underdog Show. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to show your banner. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've gone through in your life that might not be things that people talk about on a regular basis, right? Because we keep things locked up inside. And the reason we do this show is to bring awareness. So today we'll be raising awareness for domestic and mental abuse. What does that mean to you?
So absolutely, as you said, Dr. Jacalyn, it's something we don't speak about. So for myself personally, it's something I didn't speak about for 5 years while enduring the violence and the mental abuse. And sometimes I was unaware, or there were times I didn't want to acknowledge what was really going on. So, it was a loving relationship at the beginning. It done its 9 years duration. But within the 5 latter years of that relationship, it became volatile. It became very unhealthy and toxic. And it was, you start learning more about yourself. So I learned a lot about myself in that relationship in regards to, the choices that I was making. So, yeah.
And thank you for being here and for being transparent, because again, it's not easy to do. And sometimes I know from doing it myself that, we have these flashbacks to what happened to us in our journey. And sometimes we don't want to go back there, right? But in order to do the work, we have to go back there. And I know you've already done the work, and you were recently appointed as an ambassador, helping other people, specifically women, get their lives back. Can you share something about that with us?
Yes, so it's a work in progress. So I'm really excited. It's Aanchal's women's charity in London. And as you said, there's so many work streams that support women in building skills, life skills, to help them rebuild that confidence and self-esteem that they would have lost within being in an unhealthy, toxic relationship. there'll be fundraising, and as an ambassador, it's my duty to help raise further awareness of how we can support with more funding and get more ladies supported. And as you mentioned, the real estate, it's a beautiful connection, because in the future, my sister and I would also like to use real estate as refuges for men and women, and provide those accommodations as safe houses when they are required in emergency circumstances, when men and women need to flee of a violent type relationship. So I'm just really looking forward to take full reins of that role. Equally, we've spoken about how can my poetry support in getting ladies, in particular for this charity, to start expressing themselves, because it's so important, as you said, to deal with the past before you can move forward.
Very well said. And Gi, I'm wondering, I've had other people here on the show talking about domestic abuse and domestic violence, and have shared that it's increased exponentially during the pandemic, that it's a pandemic within a pandemic for abuse. What have you found there over in London?
So absolutely. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but absolutely. We've just completed a Euro tournament for football, British football, and even then they're saying, alcohol fueled the kind of excitement or the tension of even a sport being played in the background and a partner watching it. That also, depending on the results of the outcome of that match, that also sadly means that they may take it out on their loved one or a partner or a family member. So that's just very recently that, there was Euro 2020 going on. But absolutely, I think it's the intensity of walking on eggshells that is what sadly the pandemic really highlighted for people. And it also really highlighted whether people to reflect, am I actually in a good relationship or not? And I think it heightened that during the pandemic. So my personal opinion would be, it's nothing that someone wouldn't have been aware of, but it absolutely brought it to the forefront of what they probably were brushing under the carpet, but it definitely came to the surface. And this is where I think that there were more charities being called, that there were more call outs of police attending such domestic situations. So sadly, yes, the pandemic, it raised the stats to the roof, because people didn't have that escape, that kind of, that time where they can actually have that space required. And it actually made people think that, goodness, I need to actually deal with this. I need to deal that I'm in a toxic relationship. I need to deal that I'm experiencing mental or violence in my relationship. So that's my personal opinion to what has seen this influx of cases.
Thank you, Gi. When we think about helping other people, if we could help just one person today, people watching live, listening live, or listening later, what are some of the signs of abuse? So, for example, someone might say, oh, she does that all the time, or he's always done that since I've known him. When does it become evident that the behavior has become abusive? What are the signs to look for?
So I must say the signs of abuse are very different dependent on personality. But from my experience, the signs that I would say were the making you feel guilty, the making you not want to enjoy your life because there was some kind of repercussions of that. There was, controlling in the manner of, oh, are you really going to wear that dress? You're not really going to wear that dress, are you? So there were very subtle signs that slowly started to think, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And then, of course, then there's the violence, which is non-questionable. Violence comes with, sadly, a scar left, or you have some kind of wound or some kind of pain. So I would say when it comes to domestic violence, it's a progression, sadly. It's something that you can, when you start putting the jigsaw pieces together, you can start realizing that actually there were always signs there of somebody that wasn't a very nice person as such.
You bring up some really good points. I can even think back to relationships that I've been in where it started subtly with your physical appearance, right? Oh, like what you were just saying. And then it turned into, oh, you don't know how to dress. I'm going to have to dress you. I'm going to put your clothes out, and you can't do, like, really crazy things that later I thought, and again, later, years later, but going through it at the time, I didn't realize that it was definitely a mental type of abuse and sort of like a narcissism. And so for anybody out there, there are signs that we don't want to acknowledge, because if we do, that causes us that we have to take action, and that can be very scary.
Yeah, totally. If you don't mind, do you mind if I read you a poem about?
Please.
So let me read you a poem. So this is from my book, the one that I've written to share to raise awareness. So this one I think is quite relevant to anyone receiving. So it's called Yo-Yo. I believe I am stuck within your circumference, round and round. I tread on the ride of what has become my chosen life. I believe I am stuck, treading on eggshells, awaiting for the next moment, next episode, next play. I believe I am stuck. And that to me sums up a lot of what, the mental state of someone on the receiving end of abuse, because it is a yo-yo journey. You constantly think you've made progress, you go back to the person, you think you've made progress, you go back to the person. So my raising awareness, the biggest thing I can do for both men and women on the receiving end of domestic violence is to say, hey, you don't need to go through this whole chapter. You don't need to figure out 5 years with this partner. Here's some evidence that actually, let's take action now. Let's do something that, when you have people that have experienced it, we have something to share. And that's where I think, that's where the biggest benefit, and that's where I wrote the book as a starting point for my journey of giving back to men and ladies and communities. It was my need of expressing and then making people relate and say, oh, when I've read her book, I actually can see where she's coming from. So I think language is so beautiful, and it connects with people in different ways. And I've always written poetry. I've been writing poetry since I was 11. You wouldn't see maths in my book, you would see poetry in my book.
That's beautiful. And it's such a creative way to be able to express yourself.
And
I want to talk a little. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, people ask me, what type of poetry do I write? It's free-flowing poetry. It's my art. So my words are my art. So I would depict them in a way so there'll be emphasis on capital letters. There'll be flow of letters. So I've really tried to illustrate my language with the emotions being illustrated in the book as well.
And I think that's such a brave and beautiful way to express your own experience to inspire other people. So well done.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about that cycle, the yo-yo cycle that you just referenced in your poem, because people watching may think, wow, this is starting to seem familiar to me. And at least I know with my own experience, there's the behavior that's demonstrated, and then the person receiving it starts to lose their self-esteem. And so they start almost feeling like they're not even visible anymore. And so as the abuser continues to abuse, the victim is scared, right? There's a lot of fear there. Plus, they don't believe they have what it takes to actually leave. So what would you say to someone who has identified that, okay, maybe I am being abused, I don't know what to do?
So I'll make a connection back with the poem. So the language that I used was, I believe, my chosen life. And there's the personal I involved in that. So yes, absolutely, the person who is abusing does make you lose your self-esteem. I was there, from who I was when I was 19, when I met my partner, to who I was when I was 29, when I walked away from this relationship. Very two different G's they were. I definitely, it's just So self-esteem absolutely gets taken away. But what I was trying to say was that it's actually down to us as an individual. So I choose to spend another day there with that person, receiving the same thing that I know I'm going to receive. And yes, it's very hard to get that help sometimes. And, I'll confess, I didn't get any help. In the sense, I didn't reach out to anyone. It took 5 years of then that turning point for me where I absolutely thought enough is enough. So I would say that, so I think there's still that strength left in someone. I have to say that, Dr. Jacalyn. I think, somebody believes they don't have strength, but the fact that they're actually even thinking that they want a better life, to me personally, is enough. And it's that positive, it's that kind of light at the end of the tunnel that they need to focus on, and then find somebody. And it can just be that one person they trust to connect with, whether it's a friend, whether it's a stranger, whether it's a charity. And I think that's all you need. You just need to believe that you deserve better, and that's your starting of your beautiful life again.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I think that really adds a lot of inspiration for people to know that you have it within you. You just have to take the first step and it will be okay. Now, what about fear of retribution? You leave, right? You get away from this person, and then the person hasn't changed. They're still the same person, but they feel like you were their property, right? That they own you, they control you. So what do you do with that, knowing that there might be some opportunity for that person to try and come after you?
And that's where I think there's much more work needs to be done, in order to safeguard the victim or safeguard the person who has decided to make that positive first step. I don't think we're doing enough. I don't think we quite understand what kind of support we need, because the lady or the man the victim would then actually walk away and life in a new town, leave their friends behind. So it starts becoming quite an isolated life in order to be free and successful again. So kind of need to understand, how can we make sure that the person who's experienced all these terrible things doesn't actually then have to leave everything behind in order to then move on. But sadly, this is where we're at the moment. People sadly do uproot their lives in order to kind of remain anonymous and not be known. And because you're absolutely right, Dr. Jacalyn, that, sadly the ex becomes a stalker, the ex becomes quite a dangerous person. As you said, they're quite possessive. So I think that, that would be lovely if, even from raising awareness, solutions can start coming to make more people come forward. And maybe that is where, or why people are not coming forward, because they know that there isn't a full 360, like almost care package, if you want to call it, for someone on the receiving end of domestic violence. Yes, they've reported it. Yes, they had the police support at that moment in time, but then you become a case number, then you become at the back of the queue, then you await trial if you get to that stage. And sadly, hopefully not most people. But I absolutely agree with you that there is this fear. There's this fear that people like myself and others that are trying to raise awareness, that, it'd be fabulous if we can work with. And that is something that's on my agenda, Dr. Jacalyn, is actually to work with the police in London, and start to share and kind of for them to get a bit more of a deeper understanding what kind of support is required, and what would a victim like.
Gee, I really commend you on that. Before we go to our break, what can we do to help you with that initiative of working with the police?
So I have an idea where I kind of want to put my poetry on. So firstly, I think it would be just raising awareness, sharing any poetry, sharing that, I'm on a mission to support people, and give us a follow on there on @FFS_G.D poetry. I am working with someone to get more content out there and have consistency in regards to more videos out there. I think the first actually being taken seriously is and that being a victim as well, being taken seriously, that you want to make a difference, or what angle you're coming from with domestic violence, because it's all easy and said that that the police want to help, but it's almost like how much research have they done, how many communities have they actually gone to and actually spoken with in order to really grasp what it is that's required. So I think give us a follow. Any ideas, welcome, send them to me as well. I would love that.
And I just want to give your Instagram handle is FFS_GD.poetry, POETRY. G, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from two sisters from Cardiff. Their names are Victoria and Lavinia, and their group name is The Debutantes. And the name of this clip is called Paradise. And I think it's great that we honor paradise and happiness as we're talking about a very difficult subject here today. So I'm going to put us backstage and play their clip, and we'll be right back with The Debutantes. Go over to Instagram, follow G, follow The Debutantes.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents the Underdog Show. Our star Ben Shai has the day off. In our first segment, our guest, Gi Dhanoa, helped us raise awareness of domestic and mental abuse, especially. It has escalated during the pandemic. Gi is an author, she's an entrepreneur, and she is an advocate to help raise awareness for these issues that are very serious. Gi, thank you again for sharing your story and for bringing light to the fact that there is hope. There are organizations that are available. You just have to take the first step. I'd like to spend the second segment of our show talking about the amazing work you're doing as an entrepreneur and learning more about the efforts that you and your sister have made in the inroads in the real estate investment space. Can you share more about that?
Yes, absolutely. We started in 2018. My sister and I took some education to learn about the property in the UK. So we started with buy to lets, they're called here. So a very simple model. You buy a property below market, you refurb it and you refinance it to recycle the money again to then purchase your next property and your next property. So that's the very simple model that we started off with. We're now in a position where confidence is growing, we understand what we're doing, and we're now going to house of multiple occupants. You have a house split up into rooms, and it helps reach the financial goal of what we wish to for and achieve. And equally at the same time, I support private investors with finding them suitable deals as well. So it's exciting times at this moment. I love in itself. So I've actually done a degree in construction management, and that was our choice. And that was also after I knew my relationship was over. I was like, oh, what can I do now? So I thought, I am going to educate myself. So it was like the world was my oyster, and I've never looked back with the choices that I've made since then. And yeah, property is exciting, property challenging. We've realized most of it all comes down to mindset. So absolutely, there are going to be days where you're like, why have I got into this? Or goodness me, I can't seem to fight all the fires that are coming through. But we have found, and one thing that I have to say, we are very lucky and we appreciate that we have each other. So there are many people that I take my hat off to that go into being entrepreneurs by themselves. Luckily, my sister and I have each other to bounce off one another. So, you know, my sister says to me when she might not be having a good day, that doesn't mean I'm not. So then, you know, I can help her get through a tough day, and likewise the other way around. So yeah, property is exciting because there's so much development within property, as in growth of knowledge, learning. So yeah, I'm really excited, Dr. Jacalyn, of what property kind of what it has for my sister and I.
And I'm excited that you're here sharing it. I also have an interest in real estate, and I think, to just simplify, first of all, we're not financial advisors, so we're not recommending people do anything one way or another. You want to check with your financial advisor. But when you think about diversifying your portfolio, it makes sense for some, depending on your situation, to invest in real estate. And there's all different types of real estate projects that people can invest in. So if you would share a little bit about the types of projects that you have to offer to people, we'd love to hear about that.
So currently, as you know, London's been a very interesting market in regards to property. So in regards to investment property, it's been very scarce and limited at this moment. But the types of property that I support clients with are what we call the baby buy-to-let. So find a property that absolutely needs value added to it. So that's probably my speciality in that. Find a property requiring value, get it. I also offer services, as that was my career prior to going self-employed and working for myself. And getting it rented and getting that passive income generated for an investor. The other strategies that I also support with is with the flip. So you buy something, do it up and sell it on. For most clients want 20% minimum profit, which is totally understandable. And then obviously think above that is beautiful. And then the other strategy that is the H strategy, which I just mentioned, was the house of multiple occupancy. And here in the UK, they're mainly predominantly known as student houses, but that's not really the case anymore. You have professional sharing, and it's more high spec properties and high finish in regards to those HMO strategy properties. And I'm just dipping my feet. As I was saying, there's so much growth in property. So I've just started learning about commercial property. And again, within commercial, there's several different strategies. And I am learning one particular strategy to start off with. And I'm really excited with what that holds. And then once I've become comfortable with that strategy and implemented it myself, I can then offer that support to my private investors in the future.
Fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And you and I had talked backstage before the show began, because we have certain things called private placements here. And it sounds like you have something similar where you can actually invest in real estate through a self-directed IRA, your pension, your retirement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So here in the UK, it's called a SAS. So these SASs are funds that you can utilize in commercial property, and there's tax benefits of utilizing your pension money versus rather than putting your personal money in, you can utilize that money that's collected for retirement, and then you can make it work harder for you. So commercial strategy is usually the one that's connected with SAS. If you will have me again, Dr. Jacalyn, maybe I can share more once I've educated myself on this further. But the thing about property, real estate, is it's just it's so diverse. You know, like you were saying, there's so many different kind of strategies, different kind of projects that people can get started on, depending on their level of knowledge, level of funds available. So it's not, it's there for everyone, depending on what level of risk they're prepared to take. So it always comes down to that level of risk, and the level of return they want back is always the deciding factor of what strategy they should kind of go with.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, risk and preferred return. And I think it's also, you have to look at two things. So I remember my father, he was invested in real estate. He would always say, it's a great opportunity. However, you can't take a brick to the bank. So if you need money quick, if you need to be liquid and you need cash, you're not going to be able to get cash quickly when you're invested in a real estate deal. However, typically, and we'll see the outcome through this pandemic. If you own real estate and you are not looking for a short-term return, and again, we're not financial advisors, but there is some security knowing that you are invested in something like a real estate project, if it's managed properly and depending on what kind of real estate deal it is.
Absolutely agree with you. I have to say, when you mentioned your dad's comment, it just made me giggle inside, because I thought, but if you paint it gold, that brick would become valuable.
I like the way you're thinking.
But yeah, absolutely. Like you've said, property is the long haul game. There are no shortcuts with property. As I was saying before, there are good days, there are bad days. There are days where, something might go wrong with every single property you own, and you've, just like you said, you have a process in place, you have a management team in place, and they will support you in dealing with that. Because the whole point, while most of us kind of diversify portfolios, whether within some kind of shares, investments, or whether it's property, is because we're trying to make more time to kind of share our purpose with other people. Mine with raising awareness, mine with supporting communities. So that's really the fundamental part of why we're trying to do these investments, to go, thank you very much. You might come knocking on my door with my return later, but at least I can now focus on what I really want to focus on. So that was my sister and I's idea. We have these beautiful projects in the pipeline that we can't wait to kind of share with the world. And property is something that is our vehicle. It's making those things happen for us. So yeah, we're really excited.
I'm excited for you. And of course, you're more than welcome to come back. I can't wait to hear what you have going on next. But let's just summarize for our audience. So our program is the Underdog Show, and you came here today and helped raise awareness for domestic and mental abuse. You shared a little bit about your story. We talked about when you are the victim of something like this, and we should say survivor. We're hoping you're a survivor, people watching, that it may take a toll on your self-esteem. You may live with a certain fear factor of retribution from the other person, but if you keep taking a step forward, if you look for people to help you make that journey, you can overcome it, and you can be on this stage inspiring other people. And so you, during the pandemic, became a full-time entrepreneur. You and your sister have a thriving business in real estate and residential right now that you're expanding to commercial. And you're also a beautiful poet, and you have a book that's available on Amazon. Can you please show your book?
Absolutely. So
okay.
This is, yeah. So obviously the acronym FFS has a negative connotation to it, but for me it was forgiven, forgotten, so meaning what's next. So when someone's read this book, they've read what they've forgiven, what they've now forgotten, left it in the past, and it's almost like what's next in my life.
I like that. And so Gi, what's next for you? You shared a little bit about some of the things, but what other big dreams do you have?
Oh, exciting. So one of my biggest dreams is to kind of relocate to France at some point. So my daughter and I have a beautiful daughter who's my accountability buddy. So she always holds me, Mummy, we're going to do that when we go to France. Yes, darling, we'll do that when we go to France. So moving to France at some point in the future would be part of my big goal. And actually, so what I actually want to do is purchase a chateau. And that chateau becomes a holiday place for families that can't afford holidays, but and they would not be paying for the accommodation whatsoever. So there would be times where it becomes peak season. Families who don't have funds can't afford to go on holiday, but they would be able to come and enjoy a beautiful holiday in France and just enjoy the chateau grounds and staying in the chateau. So that's a long-term goal of where I'm trying to go with giving back. So giving back in every aspect is so important to me. And my sister and I run Blossom workshops as well. So we kind of do every 2 months. We have a community online where we empower people, we share our skills, and we try and leave them with tools and tips of how they can implement positivity within their own lives. So there's lots going on, lots of excitement. So yeah, G just likes working hard because I'm a role model at the end of the day to my 6-year-old beautiful daughter. You know, she sees that mummy goes to work. Mummy's flexible now as an entrepreneur, which is beautiful for her. So there's lots of flexibility in when I don't work. And, you know, I'm open to working late night just to make things, you know, work, that she has time with me as well. So, yeah, family time is next for G.
By the way, I didn't get to tell you, I've never met anyone with the name G. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It is actually a smaller version of my name. My family, my brother, when he was 4, he couldn't say my name. So G became my name. And I get called my full name, even at this age, by my dad when I'm in trouble. So, yeah.
Do you want to share your full name? I'm going to guess, is it Giovanna? No.
It's actually Gurjit. So it's not that at all.
Wow. How do you spell Gurjit?
Gurjit.
Okay. That's a pretty name too. All right. You'll always be G to me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, G. This has been a great show, and I'm so glad that I got to spend the 400th broadcast with you. I will always remember that.
It's amazing, and congratulations, Dr. Jacalyn. I just have to say, your energy, your beautiful positivity, it was an honor to be sharing this moment with you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. The honor is mine. And seriously, do come back, because I love your energy. I love this story that you're sharing, and we need to get the message out as often as possible.
Mm-hmm. I would love to come back.
Perfect. I'm going to spotlight you. And again, for people who are on the radio and they cannot read the banner, how can they get in touch with you? Shall
I pop it in the comments, Dr. Jacalyn?
Yes, that'd be beautiful. Thank you. So you can reach her on Instagram, and her handle is FFS_GD.poetry. POETRY. All right. Thank you.
It's not giving me the option to share in the comments, so apologies about that. But you've just done it beautifully for me. So I think that's the job done there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. I really respect what you're doing, and I'm just grateful that you're here on the stage sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, she was beautiful and delightful, and just so inspirational. When you think of abuse, it's not something people want to talk about. People are afraid. People are embarrassed. People have all kinds of thoughts of changing their life. They want to change, but they don't know how. So bringing awareness to the subject is really near and dear to me, and I thank you, G, for being here. As we close out the show, I mentioned from the beginning that this is our 400th show since August of 2020, and I just want to give a shout out to this guy who's not here anymore, my dad, because it's just a dream come true. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.